Chairman, are you on two devices?
I am on just one device.
Okay.
Gives me the option to call in.
Yes.
I think I would have to do it before camera. Should I get out and meet him again?
You can try it. I don't know.
Okay, so looks like we are all here except for Richard, who will hopefully be rejoining us. Okay. Richard, is that you? Oh, it's quite loud. Okay, so sorry for my office neighbors being a bit loud. I'll try to keep myself muted just to avoid any confusion on that. It looks like, I believe everyone is here that is supposed to be here. So, Chairman, it is
Yes.
you if you'd like to start. I'd just like to remind everyone that if you'd like to share a comment or ask a question, please use the raise hand like we practiced, or the little emoji thing, so that we can unmute you and make sure that you have the floor. And then when you do have a comment or a question, excuse me, please make sure to state your full name so that I can get that in the minutes properly. Okay, ready, Chairman?
Very good. I'm Douglas T. Brown, Chairman of the Woonsocket Redevelopment Agency. I'll call this meeting to order. So will the secretary please call the roll?
So obviously, Chairman Doug Brown,
Here.
Member Paul Gould, who I could unmute everyone.
And I can't see anyone but you.
You just need to change your speaker
Okay.
setting. It will change when someone else speaks. So, Member Paul Gould,
Present.
Barbara Scanlon, member.
Present.
Member David Nab.
Present.
Okay. And that's it for members that we're expecting today, Chair. Wait. Member Richard Levesque, are you? I know you are.
Goodbye.
No. Hello. Not goodbye. Richard, are you here?
Dial 6. Dial 6.
Well, I know he is here on one of the phones.
Hello?
There you are. Okay.
So the secretary has noted the attendance of Commissioners David Nab, Barbara Scanlon, Paul Gould, and Richard. First item on the agenda is the reading and approval of the minutes of the meeting of March 2nd, 2020. What is your pleasure?
Motion to pass. Approve.
There's a motion by Commissioner Scanlon, seconded. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye. I'm sorry, a roll call vote, please.
Who was the second?
I'm not quite sure.
We did not have a second yet.
I'll second it.
Okay. Okay, so now we can have the roll call.
Correct.
So, let's see. Chairman Brown,
Yes?
Member Paul Gould,
Yes.
Member David Nab,
Yes.
Member Barbara Scanlon,
Yes.
Member Richard Levesque.
Yes.
Thank you. So that passes 5-0.
Very good. Next on the agenda, we have bills and communications. Madam Secretary, do we have any bills and communications?
No, not for this meeting.
The next item on the agenda is the report of the Executive Director, Mr. Scott Gibbs. Scott?
I really have no report. We'll jump in when we start covering
Shut that door, please.
the agenda.
Okay. The next item on the agenda is unfinished business. We have motion 20R02, which is appointing Mr. Samuel Badway as agency counsel.
Mr. Chairman, I would request that this be tabled again. I've yet to connect with Mr. Budway to address the issue of his billing rate.
Very good. Do we have a motion to table?
Yes.
Motion to table.
Motion by member Nab, seconded by member LeVake. It's non-debatable. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Oh, I'm sorry.
Aye.
Roll
Sorry,
Roll call.
all the votes have to be roll call for now. So Chairman Doug Brown,
Yes.
Member Paul Gould,
Yes.
Member Nab,
Yes.
Member Barbara Scanlon,
Yes.
Member Richard Levesque.
Yes.
Thank you. It passes 5-0.
Very good. Next on the agenda, we have new business, which is item 20R09, approval of the pre-application submission and authorizing executive director to submit all required additional documents pertaining to the development at 0 Menden Road for the RESH project. What is your pleasure?
Mr. Chairman, if I can give an overview on this?
Let's have a motion first and then have the overview under discussion.
Okay.
Do we have a motion for discussion purposes?
Motion to discuss?
Second.
I'll second it.
Okay, we have a motion to pass for discussion, under discussion. Executive Director Gibbs.
Yes, as I'm sure most of you have already heard in the paper, a company out of Franklin, Mass, Rush Incorporated, has reached an agreement to purchase Plat 51A, Lot 1, which is owned by First Minden Associates, and contiguous to a parcel owned by the Redevelopment Agency, Plat 51A, Lot 108. This is a site that I think is familiar with the Redevelopment Agency, in part because it's part of a tax increment financing district, and there have been discussions about plans at some point to build a public road that would provide a second point of ingress and egress to Highland to help alleviate traffic congestion, as well as to provide suitable access for Plat 51A, Lot 1. I have to apologize in that this thing was on a very, very tight rope with a extreme demanding schedule for execution. So a pre-application for a major land development project was submitted to the planning board on this project. It was submitted by both First Minden Associates as property owner, which is a requirement under statute, and also by the Redevelopment Agency as I signed, because the Redevelopment Agency owns Plat 51A, Lot 108, which is an access road to this development. What I have asked is that both Mr. Leo Houdon, who is with Bowerman Associates, which has been retained by Resch Inc. as the design builder contractor on this project, to attend the meeting, as well as Steve Cabral, who is owner of Crossman Engineering, which is the site engineer on this project. Mr. Cabral has been retained by the Economic Development Foundation of Rhode Island pursuant to a grant we received with the city of Woonsocket under the site readiness program to be the engineer on this site. So both individuals are on this meeting, and they can give you an overview of this project.
Great. Who would we like to hear from first?
I think it would make
Okay.
sense if Steve Cabral start this conversation.
Yeah, okay. What I could try to do is see if I could bring up an image of the plans.
I
I
have
mean-
those ready to go.
Okay.
And all the members should have a copy, as I did provide those for you guys. So hang on one second. here.
That's impressive.
Okay. So I suppose just let me know if you'd want
Okay. Now,
the
how
next
about,
screen over.
yeah, let's scroll down to the aerial image. Yeah, this one is good. Yeah, what this shows is pretty much an aerial image of the property with the proposed West manufacturing facility built. And as you can see, the long, narrow parcel is the parcel owned by the Redevelopment Agency. And what we're proposing is to build a new access coming in right behind the existing Cumberland Farms. And the roadway will slope downward so that the road will be pretty much at ground level. And then because we don't have a connection to Mendon Road yet, we're proposing a temporary cul-de-sac. A portion of the cul-de-sac will be on the Resch land. And then as you can see, the front of the mesh building, which is about 60,000 square feet in size, which is about an acre and a half when it comes to a building footprint. We have the parking in the front, and then we have for emergency vehicles and truck maneuvering access all the way around the building. And as you can see, we have the loading docks way at the back of the building, so they'll be shielded from, certainly from Park East. Now, one of our concerns with the project is that we want to make sure that we buffer the homes along Mendon Road as much as possible. So as we develop the final landscape plans, we are proposing a thick evergreen buffer right along the lower side of the new roadway and along the lower side of the loading dock area and the back of the loading dock area. You know, again, one of the big concerns is that this is a large building and it's right behind the residential homes. But, you know, we've worked with Leo and Scott and we buffered it certainly as much as possible. One of the unique features is that the site is much lower than Park East Drive. So what we're looking at is for the drainage and for the sewer, what Scott was able to do is to gain an easement through one of the lots that has frontage on Mendon, so that for the drainage, we'll certainly collect it and mitigate it with infiltration ponds on the property. And then we'll extend the new pipe through one of the home's yards and tie into the DOT drain in Mendon Road. And at the pre-application stage, we anticipate we'll have a small sewer pump and we'll pump the sewage from the facility up to the sewer line in Mendon Road. But if we find that the easement is large enough, we can eliminate the sewer pump and just connect by gravity to the sewer in Mendon Road. Now, what you have here today are the pre-application plans, which were prepared a couple of weeks ago. As of today, the plans are much more detailed, and I did just send them over to Teresa just moments ago, so she'll be able to share them with you. And what you'll see is those are much more detailed with, oh, there they are.
Or not.
Yeah, no, it is a large file, so it may take a few minutes. Oh, there we go. Yeah, so what this sheet shows, if we could. Yeah, see, they're just loading in. So Teresa, maybe if we could scroll down to sheet 5. Okay, and then, yeah, what this sheet shows is the existing topography of the site. And each line here represents a 2-foot interval drop. So you can see there's a significant elevation differential between Park East and the main body of the site. So when you come in the new roadway, there will be a gradual slope downward. It'll drop about 20 feet. So Teresa, we could go to the next sheet. Okay, yeah, thank you. Okay, this is the plan that gives all the dimensions of the roadway. We're proposing it to be 30 feet wide. And then, you know, this demonstrates the number of parking spaces, the size of the parking spaces and the size of the aisles. And we have been in discussions with the fire department. And just yesterday, they provided us with the turning radius of their largest fire truck. So we're reviewing those dimensions to make sure that the city fire truck can maneuver all the way around the building. Now there is, on the far left of the screen, you'll see that there is a small forested wetland, but because of its size, there's no buffer associated with it. So we will be applying to DEM for a freshwater wetlands permit, but we do not anticipate any problem with that. Okay, Teresa, how about if we go to the next one? Oh, thank you. Okay, this plan represents the proposed grading and drainage design for the site. And what you see here is the bold solid lines right along Park East Drive represent 2-foot contour intervals. So you can see there is a substantial drop from Park East. Because of the elevation difference, we are proposing a new guardrail right along Park East Drive. And you can see the contours are much more spaced out along the new roadway. That just indicates that it's a gradual slope coming down. And at the front of the building and at the rear of the building is where we have the stormwater ponds. And those ponds will collect the first flush of runoff, and then they'll actually be piped to the shaded area at the lower side of the plan. And that represents an underground infiltration system that'll help infiltrate stormwater runoff and reduce the volumes. And then at the lower end of the screen, you'll see we have a new pipe that extends through one of the homes, as I mentioned earlier, to Park East Drive. One thing we found originally was that we were afraid that it would be very tight because on old images there was a garage, but we found recently that there's only a concrete slab there, so the garage was removed.
If I could just provide a point of clarification on that, that house is actually owned by the owner of the Rush site. That's why we've been able to reach an understanding. He's supportive of this. We have not formally executed an easement with him, but he's indicated his support of it.
Oh, and one item with the design that we had proposed to the city to minimize impervious area is that according to the zoning regulations, we need about 122 parking spaces based on the building size, but the actual need for parking is only around 50. So what the city has unofficially agreed to at this stage is that we only need to build 50, and we'll hold the other 72 in reserve, and they'll only be built in the future if the need ever comes to be. So that benefits Resch, the manufacturer, and there's an environmental benefit because we have less impervious to deal with.
Steve, is the stormwater management systems being designed for full parking build out at some point?
Yes, yep. The drainage system was designed for the full bill parking, and it's also designed to accommodate the new roadway.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, or Teresa, if we could go to the next screen. Okay, thank you. Okay, this screen demonstrates the anticipated utility connections. And what it shows is we have a new 8-inch water line coming in from Park East, and that dead ends at the cul-de-sac. Then we'll have a 6-inch and a 2-inch. The 6-inch would be the fire service for the building, and the 2-inch would be the domestic. And then, of course, we'll have the electric, the gas, and right at the lower right-hand corner to the right lower side is where we're proposing that small sewer pump for the building that, if all goes well, we'll be able to eliminate that. Oh, Teresa, how about if we scroll to the landscape plan, which, these plans here just represent the detailed design of the roadway, but we could skip through those. Yeah, again, these are just more fine-tuned details. It's details of the drainage. Okay, this plan represents the lighting layouts. What we're proposing is LED lighting fixtures, and the oval shaped lines from each fixture just represents the foot candle spread. And we in the city uses use these diagrams just to demonstrate that the lighting is limited to the property and it's not being shed onto the abutters. Okay, thank you. This plan represents the landscaping that's being proposed. And you know what you can see, we have a mix of trees and shrubs surrounding the front of the building. And on the lower side of the roadway is where we have the thick evergreen screen along the roadway and along the back of the loading area. Now, one unique feature that you will see when the road gets built is from Park East Drive. Currently, there's a very steep drop off and the road's going to be much more gradual. So we'll be building a retaining wall behind the Cumberland Farms. And that retaining wall is going to have a height that varies up to 17 feet high. So on top of that wall, of course, we'll have a pedestrian rail and a guardrail. So Scott, that gives a very quick overview. I mean, I'd be glad to go into the details of the drainage, but I don't think.
Unless there are any questions, we could have maybe Leo address the building itself.
Okay.
Okay.
Oh, Teresa, if you scroll down 2 sheets, there may be a building facade rendering. Yep, there we go.
All right. Basically, the objective was to, make the front and the side of the building, or at least the street side of the building, very attractive. We're using materials, kind of very European looking, metallic in color for the most part, different colors. If you're familiar with the Ford dealerships, the new branding of Fords, they have that Alucobond silver toned condition. This will be very similar. They did mix in some colors to give it the rest symbol, which is the burnt red. Again, the front of the building is going to have some eyebrows built in, a lot of glass, and that's really the office area, and that's the 2-story portion of the building. The rest of it is a 1-story structure, which is about 50,000 square feet. It's basically a big box, which is going to have insulated vertical panels with some windows running along the side walls, as you can see above that red accent line. Again, but it's for the most part, this is all high-grade materials that are being used, and it's kind of the industry standard right now.
We did have an opportunity to visit Rush's facility in Franklin. We did a tour of the building. Couple points I wanted to make. One is that this operation, although it is in metal fabrication, this is an entirely different kind of operation that you would typically envision from an old metal fabrication company. These are very sophisticated computer-driven machinery. It's very quiet in the facility. It's also spotless clean. This building will have all polished floors. It's very, very high-tech driven, high-tech looking. It is also very capital intensive. They got very sophisticated machinery on their shop floor. On a 50,000, 60,000 square foot building, the employment levels are, I think they're right now at about 30 to 35. So it's a fairly low employment kind of company, although they do expect to grow a little bit. They have an international client base, deal with a very diversified client base, including in the medical industry. They have been very insulated by economic cycles, including the current cycle. They are extremely busy. So I think from on various parts, this project is ideal for the site. One is it's going to be although this site is not part of the Highland Park and is not subject to the declaration of covenants for the Highland Park, it still is the kind of use and look that we were hoping to get coming into Highland, and clearly is better than what could have been allowed under the city's existing zoning ordinance. So from that standpoint, it's a real win. The other point is that although we always like to see jobs, this operation, as I said, only has 30 to 35 employees. Therefore, the traffic impacts are going to be negligible on Highland, which has always been a concern of everyone's. Furthermore, the amount of trucks coming in and out of this facility are only about 3 a week. So we'll have 3 a week, right? So it's a very nominal traffic impact. If we could go back to the site plan with the road, I'd like to address that issue.
Or it may be on sheet 6, maybe best. Oh, I'm sorry, 7, there we go.
That's good. I know the redevelopment agency and the city have had a lot of conversations about providing a second way in and out of Highland. The idea would be to take some of the traffic coming out of Park East Drive that's going through that controlled intersection and giving them the opportunity to circumvent that. Say if they're going up to Bellingham, Mass, or anywhere north or even to the city, it could help really alleviate some of the traffic impacts. What we're showing right now is that this road only goes to a cul-de-sac. The reason being is because we at this point in time do not have a secondary point of accessing out to Minden Road. So we're obviously keeping our eyes open on that. So when we're bringing the infrastructure into this thing like water, we're bringing it all the way to the cul-de-sac so that in the future, if we expand this out to Minden Road, we can bring the water all the way down and provide a water loop, which the Public Works likes to see. The only other point I wanted to make is that this has been presented to the Technical Review Committee for the city. It received very few comments. None of them are significant. It is on the docket for the June 2nd Planning Board meeting as a pre-application. And assuming that we get through that fine, we would be then filing for the July meeting for a combined master plan and preliminary plan approval. And that would allow final approval administratively by the city. The purpose of this sequencing is because of the time frame of this company. They need to be under construction. What are we talking about, Leo? September of this year?
Yeah, our hope was, initially our hope was late July, obviously, but now it looks like August. But we know that their lease is running out, at the current location. So the objective is to have them in the building next July, August.
Okay. And one of the things that we've talked to the building official about as a way to kind of compress that schedule is to actually maybe issue a site development permit first as they finalize the building plan so they can at least start site work. Leo, I would think we're probably looking at what, 3 months at least of site work here?
Yeah, that's about right.
Okay, so this is zoned appropriately. It is an MU zone. It is allowed by right. There are no variances of any sort that are being asked from the planning board or from zoning. The only thing that we are asking a concession on, as Steve Cabral had referenced earlier, is that instead of forcing us to build all the parking required under the zoning ordinance, we would actually show the capacity to provide all that parking, but only build what is needed. And that is definitely a position of the planning department for environmental reasons.
Let me step in really quick.
Yeah.
We had 2 members raise their hands, so I'd like to get to them.
Okay.
Let's start with Member Gould. You were first.
Thank you. Teresa, I don't know if I have my phone on for audio and the computer on for video, so it may be the same member that had the question.
No, there were,
Oh, okay,
it
all
was
right, I'm
you and
sorry.
someone else.
I wasn't sure if I'm going through on this. So Scott or whoever, I'd really like to know our position with regard to lot 108, the roadway. Are we looking to deed that back to the purchaser or the developer? Are we going to be responsible for the construction of the road? And or are they going to complete beyond the cul-de-sac or prepare it beyond the cul-de-sac so that in the future, if we do establish a egress point, that we have access to it, or are we going to maintain control of that lot?
Yes, good questions. First of all, this is going to be a public road, and it will be under the ownership of the city, as it was always envisioned for this.
Okay.
We haven't really decided. It is going to be, the cost associated with that road is going to be the municipality's responsibility. If you recall, this is a tax increment financing district. It was put in place specifically for this. Whether we include this road as part of the construction plans for the site and then compensate accordingly, or we do it separately, that decision has not been made yet. But it will be a public road, and that right-of-way of which this road is located on goes all the way to the left to the end of the property. So the municipality, the redevelopment agency, would have the right in the future to extend that road.
Right. I'm sorry.
Yeah, it's all right.
I just saw on the when we go through the plans of some of the plantings that they're planning are on that. I assume it's not. I know it's not going to be on the roadway, but it's on the property owned by the city. Is that who owns lot 109?
That lot is actually, I believe, owned by First Minden Associates as well.
Okay.
That will be, I would assume, Leo, that you're showing that as being still retained by Rush going forward, or is First Minden only selling? I think, in retrospect, I'm sorry, not to be trip over here, but I think First Minden is only selling the lot in which the building is located. The land below the roadway will be retained ownership by First Minden Associates. And because it abuts a public road, you can do that. It won't be a landlocked parcel, but it's really not a developable parcel. It just provides a sufficient.
And the funds.
Yep.
And the funds to develop this roadway are available, and that's not going to slow up the project?
We have some money in the TIF budget right now, but the reason why we established the TIF district is it allows us to effectively borrow funds for the road reconstruction, and that the repayment of those funds are through the incremental increase in property taxes for a period of time that will have to be defined once we have a construction budget on the road. That does not have, that's not a bond referendum issue. That is a tax revenue bond that doesn't need any additional voter approval. So we're still working on some budgeting issues as it relates to the road. Now that we are at this construction level, we'll start getting some estimates on that and start figuring out a capital structure on it as well.
Just as a historical background, that lot has been there forever. I think this is a great project. I did look at a little bit of reach on my own, and you indicated they don't anticipate much growth in their company other than possibly, I saw on their website they have 25 employees. That was probably outdated a number, but so they're at 30 to 35, and they anticipate about the same number for, like, their 5-year plan is roughly the same. And
I think by the very nature of their operation, I think, their revenues are growing, and that means their output's growing. They may have to hire a few more people, but remember, this is a very capital intensive company, a lot of machinery. It's not a highly manual labor company. So you can't grow the facility any larger than what it is. So they may have a few additional employees, maybe 5 or so, maybe at the max 10, but that's it. So this site will never really generate a heavy employment level, which at that point does become more concerning as it relates to Park East Drive.
And they're moving out of their Franklin facility to come to this facility. They're not adding a second facility.
They are relocating. This company originally started in Woonsocket. years,
Oh, good.
years ago. They were located, I believe, off of Railroad Street. They were only there for a couple years. They moved up to Massachusetts, and then they moved to at a different facility. And then they moved to Franklin, where I think they've been there for 30 years, 30 plus years. So this is a complete relocation to Rhode Island. The principal of this company, the family, are from Woonsocket. And 10% of the 30% of the employees of this company are Woonsocket residents.
Thank you.
Okay, then our other member question was from member Nab.
Hello, everyone. I apologize. I got dropped off for about 5 minutes when Mr. Cabral was talking. You know, the main genesis of this road was to provide access out of the Park East Drive roadway. And I'm looking at the road as it's connecting in. Is that going to be wide enough to accommodate the traffic that is coming down the hill and into that road eventually? It looks like you have an island in the middle. I'm not sure what that illustration is in the middle of the road. Might be.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
If I may, what you see in the middle of the road is it'll be a yellow stripe. It won't be a curved island. Yeah, the reason we widened the opening is just to make it easier for trucks to make a wider turn. But we definitely won't have an island there.
Okay.
Now, one thing that we could consider is if we did anticipate the intent of this wasn't to have truck traffic cut through here. So
Right.
what we're proposing is a 30-foot wide roadway, which would be suitable for the few trucks of Resch and then for regular passenger cars. We certainly didn't want to create a roadway where the trucks would be driving behind these homes. And one other restraint is the right-of-way is only 45 feet wide. So with a 45-foot wide right-of-way and a 30-foot road, there's really limited space, to transition. So we do believe that 30 feet is adequate for the truck volume of Resch and the potential future passenger cars.
Thank you. Thank you for clearing that up.
Steve, I'm looking at your guardrail. There's no guardrail there now. So why are you proposing to bring the guardrail all the way up to the edge of the property line off Park East Drive?
Okay. In order to create the level plateau for the building and the parking lot around the building, we're actually going to be making the slope from Park East Drive much more steeper than it is today.
So you're grading in that area, all that area?
Yes, we're grading from Park East down at a 2-to-1 slope.
Okay. And everybody should also understand, not understand, but be informed that the property right behind this, which is also not technically in Highland and not subject to the covenants, was recently submitted to the planning board for a solar development. So that is going to be developed as a solar field.
Lot 4?
Yes.
Thank you.
So what we have right now, which is fairly unattractive, coming into Highland, in 12 months is going to be really nice. It's going to be a nice entry into the park.
Yeah, I happened to drop off a UPS or a FedEx package at Highland yesterday, and I went right by that property. It is sloped, so I'm glad that someone could put something to use to it. I think it's going to be a good asset to the park. It's an introduction to the park, because the park on our side doesn't have an introduction. There's probably about a quarter mile of roadway.
Yep. To go back to the original, are there any other questions regarding the proposed development? The resolution that is before you, I wanted to clarify, because of the time schedule on this project, we had to get this thing to the planning board by June. So because, again, the redevelopment agency is a property owner of the land that being shown for the road, it has to be one of the applicants for the pre-application approval with the planning board. So clearly you could renege on that and we could withdraw the application, but I think everyone I thought would be understanding that we had to get this thing going. So what the resolution effectively does is it ratifies the action taken by the executive director to submit this to the planning board for pre-application approval, as well as to give the executive director the authority on behalf of the redevelopment agency to submit to the planning board for both master plan and preliminary approval at the July meeting. As I said, that the final approval hopefully will be delegated to administrative, so we won't have to go back to the planning board, and this client can start construction within their time frame. The only thing that really hangs out here on all this is we do need DEM approval. This is not a formal wetlands approval, so we feel comfortable that we can get it done on time, but until that wetland approval is in place, we can't start any site work on this property.
How long is that process?
Steve, you can jump in, but typically that's what, 45 days?
Yes, 45 days is realistic with,
Even
well,
in a pandemic?
well, yeah, that's what I was hesitant to say. It's not the typical time. They are actively working on projects, even away from their office. Worst case, it should be 2 months.
Secretary Pryor has been involved in this project from the beginning. He is the administration in Providence is strongly supportive of this, and we won't hesitate to use the leverage of the Secretary of Commerce's office and the governor's office to make sure the DEM gives a very expeditious review and approval of this project.
Great. Okay, is there any further discussion? Hearing none, we have a motion on the floor. It's been seconded for approval of the pre-application submission and authorizing the executive director to submit all additional documents pertaining to the development of Zero Mendon Road for the RESH project. We will now have a roll call. All those in favor of approval.
Do we have a motion yet?
I think it was a motion just to open.
Yeah.
The motion wasn't for discussion purposes only. That motion, well, if you want a new motion, it doesn't matter.
Just for my sanity and the minutes, would someone mind making a motion?
Sure. I would move that the resolution as proposed be submitted for a vote with regard to the Rush project.
Motion by agency member Gould. Is there a second?
I will second it.
Seconded by agency member Nab. Now, any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, we will have a roll call.
Okay. So Chairman Brown,
Yes.
Member Gould,
Yes.
Member Scanlon,
Yes.
Member Nab,
Yes.
Member Levesque.
Yes.
Passes 5-0.
Very good. And that concludes the agenda items for today's meeting. And I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Make a motion to adjourn this meeting?
Seconded by the chair. All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Oh. Teresa, do we need a roll call?
Need a roll call for that too, I think.
Yeah,
Yeah.
technically every single one.
Then let's have a roll call.
Okay, Chairman Brown,
Yes.
Member Gould,
Yes, but thank you, Scott. You did a great job presenting this.
Yes, indeed.
Appreciate it.
Member Scanlon,
Yes.
Member Nab,
Yes.
Member Levesque.
Yes.
Passes. We are adjourned at 8:49.
I thank everyone.
Thank you,
Thank you
everyone.
all.
Thank you.
Thank you.
For the person signed in as resident, what's your name for my minutes?
Melissa. Hello? Hello?